Hey there, everyone. We are back with more Q&A here, and this is part 15. And I said in the last video that part 15 was probably going to be the last part. Nope, probably not. I got a lot more questions, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get through all of them in an hour. So I guess if you got more questions, ask them below, or the next part will definitely be the last part. Um, but we're going to hop right into this, and we'll start out with some questions about one of my favorite game series. So we've got MGS Miesh, or Smite, I don't know, is asking me about Yakuza games. So, Yakuza, let's see. He's asking a bunch of questions here. You said in a previous Q&A video that Yakuza 4 and 5 are your favorites in the series. Common consensus I've seen is that Yakuza 0 is the best game in the series thus far, so I'm curious to know how you feel Yakuza 0 stacks up to 4 and 5. Yakuza 0 hasn't been localized quite yet, and from what I've seen, it looks like a real step up for the series, and I'm looking forward to it. Okay, I got maybe some hair in my mouth there. That's not fun. Um, let's see. Yakuza 0 is a great game. Hands down, like, awesome game. When it comes out, buy it. Awesome, highest recommendation. The thing with Yakuza 0 in relation to Yakuza 5, I think it's probably better than 4. But even then, I'd be hard pressed to really say that. And it's not because it's a bad game, because it's actually like it's the best made game out of all of them. Like it's obviously built upon all of the other games, and it looks better, it plays better, it's got all the simulation stuff in the game, best in the series. The club, the running the clubs in Osaka, best club simulation ever. The buying in Tokyo, you have like a real estate buying simulation. It's awesome. It's fun. I kept doing it for hours. It's just so much fun for me. So when I played those, like Yakuza 0, it's probably the best playing game in the series, but the reason I would put 5 above 0 is that I think the story has more impact. It has more, I want to say, like, gravitas, in the sense that, like, 0 is a prequel, so you kind of know who will live and who will die and who ends up where. And, like, it's interesting to see those characters in the past and whatever, but, like, it doesn't have the same, like, level of, you know, um, heaviness to it. Like, you can tell that some people aren't going to die because they show up later. Like, it ruins a bit of the suspense. And then when there's super important characters in 0 that don't show up later in the series, you get a good kind of inkling that either they're something bad's gonna happen to them, or you know, um, they their story isn't gonna end so hot. So you get, you know, you don't have the same kind of level of, you know, excitement for the story. It's not, and I think 5 is like so good for the story. Like, it's just such a like, I don't know. It's just really easy to get really into that game, and 0 is the same way, except it doesn't have the same level of story. But everything else is better, and I just feel like 5 does everything great. I mean, I have no complaints about 5 either, but the story edges it above 0. And like 4 might be the same way. I just feel like, um, even though, like, if you comparatively 4 and 0, like 0 is a much more fun game to play, even though 4 is like spectacular. We're talking about like the difference between like a 95 and a 98, that kind of thing. Like, it's not exactly both are going to be awesome no matter what. So it's the kind of thing where, like, you can't. I don't know. Like, 4, 5, and 0 are like on the same level easily. I just think they're just like slightly edged out because of their stories. If that makes any sense. Let's see. Next question. I know you played a number of iterations of the original Yakuza, but do you think you'll ever get around to playing Kiwami, the supposed definitive version? I'll play Kiwami eventually. I want to play it. It's not that I don't want to play it. It's just that like I played the HD version, the H on the Wii U, um, relatively recently, and I just thought like, man, I played it, and then like 3 months later, Kiwami came out or something, and I was just like, man, I'm not gonna play this again. Even though like I don't know what they added to it, I don't know what's different about it, but like I had just played it, so it's the kind of thing where I'm not going to play it again really soon. So I'm just waiting for it to get cheap. And once I see it for like 15, $20, I'll pick it up and play it because I mean, realistically, Yakuza 1 is not a long game. It's like 7 hours maybe at the most. Um I guess you could at the most like sky's the limit. You could just do the side stuff all day. But if you just like go through all the side stories and the regular story of the game, like it's not going to take you forever. It's a pretty short game comparatively compared to the other games. It's the shortest one. So it's not bad. I want to play it though. I'll get it eventually. Let's see. The next question: did you ever beat Amon in Yakuza Ishin? He was a real bastard in that game. That's true. Um, the only way I found to beat him was using really cheap tricks and having ridiculous maxed out equipment. This is true for That's true for basically all the games though. You always have to do some kind of cheap trick to beat him because like he's made that way. He's made that you're supposed to be a cheap ass to even fight him because he is like the king of cheap asses. Like he's always doing stuff. He has like abilities that are stupid. Like he'll be invincible for points where you just feel like I don't know what I can do here except to do this cheap thing because otherwise he's invincible. Um, he's always like that. It's more of like a throwback to kind of like NES style bosses where there's like you have to know the patterns, you have to memorize patterns, and you have to like use um, one certain method that's usually kind of like a little cheap to beat these bosses. And that's kind of how those I look at those. I mean, they're all hard. There's not really one battle with him that's ever easy. Um, I mean, some of them are easier than others, obviously, but like they're all meant to be hard. So can't really complain that Ishin's one was hard, and it was hard, but I beat all of those. It's like part of my criteria for beating the game. Like I've never 100% completed a Yakuza game because like it means you have to do all of like the 100% completion for all the side stuff, like the shops and things. Like I'm not doing that. That's busy work at some point. But like I always do all the story and all the side stories. Yeah, when you do all the side stories, if you get 100% sub story completion, you fight Amon at the end. So I always do that because it's part of the story to me. It's part of the game that I must beat to consider it cleared. So I always do that. So I always beat those. It's part of the game. I think you should always beat those. Um, and like now, there's almost no excuse in the series because like previously, like if you're playing like the older ones, like you can't always find the side quests. Like it's not without a guides for like the first 3 games. Like if you don't look up where some of them are, you're just like you're never gonna find them. It's just unless you like go to every square inch of the map, every couple of hours through the game, you're not gonna find them all. So it's the kind of thing where like later, but now like what I'm saying is there's no excuse is that now they mark the subquests on the map, so like where they all are. You can find them easily, so you should be able to do those every time. And the next question here is, what are your thoughts on Yakuza 6 thus far? Are you excited? The recent trailer Sega released for the game looks really stunning. The plot looks interesting, and there's the notion that this is Kiryu's final game. That's all assuming you've seen the recent trailer, though. I haven't seen the recent trailer. I don't watch trailers or news about games I know I'm going to buy. Um, Yakuza 6, I saw the announcement trailer, and then I'm done. I don't need to see anymore. I know I'm going to buy it. I don't even need to, realistically, I don't even have to see the announcement trailer for this game. It's like one of my favorite game series. I just have to know when it's coming out. Um, so, and even then, like, I'll just search on Amazon until it shows up. But like when that game comes out, I'll buy. I'm definitely buying it. So I feel like I'm not gonna spoil myself with anything. I don't spoil myself for games that I know I'm gonna play. I don't look at like usually when I watch game trailers for things, it's for games I'm not sure I'm gonna buy, or like a game I haven't heard about so much where I'm just like, what is this? And then I'll look at it and be like, oh, well that on my radar, or I'll look at it and say, oh, that was not what I was expecting. That's not something I'm gonna buy. So, I mean, for example, recently there's a game called God Wars that's coming out, and I thought like, well, it sounds dumb. I don't know what that is, and like it's not, and the art is like not up my alley, and I was just like, well, I'll watch the trailer, whatever. And it turns out it looks like Final Fantasy Tactics, and I like it. It really looks like it. It looks like kind of like an updated Tactics, and I was like, oh, that's suddenly on my radar. I'm gonna buy that. But like Yakuza 6, I guess right when they announced that, I know I'm gonna buy it. So like, I'm not I'm not gonna. This is twofold reason to not look at trailers for games you know you're gonna buy. First, you don't want to spoil yourself for anything. You don't want to know any parts of the game that are gonna be revealed in the game, even basic stuff, because like it's more fun to figure that stuff out on the thing you bought than it is to like figure it out from a trailer. I'd rather just go into it thinking like, oh well, um, here's this game, and I know it's one of my favorite series, so I'm just gonna go into it as blind as I can, and find everything that I can without having to worry about being spoiled. And that's like one part of games, because sometimes trailers spoil stuff, sometimes they don't. But even then, like I don't want to watch the trailers. And here's the other reason is like I don't want to overhype myself for something either. Like I don't want to go into a game being too hyped. I don't want to go in thinking like this is going to be the greatest game ever and then be disappointed when in like this happens. This happens with games you go into being overhyped, and they end up being great games, but they're not as good as you thought they were going to be. So like it kind of ruins the experience a bit. And I think maybe this happened with No Man's Sky, though I don't think No Man's Sky is probably a great game. I haven't played it though, but I mean it's definitely not a kind of game I would play. But a lot of people went into it thinking it was going to be like God's gift to gaming, like it was going to be the greatest thing that was ever released. And like I don't know how the hype for that game got so big, considering it's like the last game that company made was Joe Danger. You're going to be like, I don't know. I just don't. I don't want to get into that kind of thing where like I'm just too hyped for a game, and I end up being disappointed by it. Like what I would normally, if I hadn't been overhyped, would have been like a great experience. So that's the kind of thing why for games that I know I'm going to buy, I just ignore everything and add it to a pre-order list. That's it. No more trailers for me. No more news either. I don't look at anything for that stuff. So the only news I'll look for is if like release date is announced. Then I'll look and figure out when it's coming out. But I don't watch any videos or anything. So that is it for those questions. We've got Creepus66 is asking me, I've gathered that you consider yourself a gamer and not necessarily a collector, but I'm just curious as to whether or not you're a stickler for condition and or completeness, like obi strips, etc., when purchasing retro games. Um, this is a good question, I think. I'm sort of a collector, but not a collector in terms of like anything that's even relevant to collecting. So like I make up my own collection themes that are based on nothing. They're not based on rarity. They're not based on usually not based on companies. They're not based on like these kinds of things. It's just it's just based on like, oh, I like this type of game, so I'm gonna try you know many types of games in this kind of genre, and or I'm gonna do something like here's my tokusatsu game collection, which I showed. It's just like all these games are related to tokusatsu in some way. They're not exactly, none of them are rare, or it's not, okay, not none of them, but most of them, for the most part, are not rare or expensive. It's just not, I don't collect for rarity or expensiveness. I collect for things I'm interested in playing. Um, but that being said, when I buy a game, I expect it to be in good condition. No, it doesn't have to be perfect, but the disc has to be not scratched. And I don't want a game that looks like it's been soaked in water or some shit. I don't, but like if a game has a manual, I want that manual. If a game has a box, I want that box. I want it to be complete as, you know, generally as complete as possible. So like OB strips, I don't care about that. Like the thing with those is that I have a lot of my games back there have those, but they're not on the game. I just fold them up and put them in the case. Like it doesn't do me anything. Like if I were a person who was putting all my games in plastic envelopes, like some people do that. Like I don't care. If I were doing that, I would put the OB strips on the outside, because that's how they are in the game store. But like even when I buy games like that and with an OB strip, like who cares? I just feel like, I'm just gonna fold it up and put it in the case anyway. I don't really need that. It's not doing anything for me. And then when it's in the case, it's just like, it's taking up space it's an extra step when I want to look at the manual to take that thing out. So it's the kind of thing where like I don't care about that, but I do care about manuals. I do care about general quality. Like it doesn't have to be. I don't have all my games don't have to be spotless. They don't. The discs have to be, but like if they're discs. But the manuals. If there was like a crease in the cover or something, I wouldn't care. If the box is like not in perfect shape, that's fine as long as there's a box. But if it's horrible, there's tears, there's like water damage, and I'm not buying that. I'll skip on that stuff. So like I have like a relatively reasonable thing, and it's like I'm not like I really collect rare stuff anyway. I mean I have a couple of things that are rare, but I don't have a lot of stuff that's really expensive. Mostly because like the stuff that I play is not super popular or expensive. And there's some stuff that is. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's stuff that I like that's rare and expensive. It's just like not the majority. So like when people show their like game collections, they're like, "Oh, here's my Earthbound or whatever," and I'm just like, "Well, I'm not like even a huge fan of that game, so like I don't need to buy it." And like the kind of stuff that I'm excited for that's rare and expensive, it's like, "Here's Burger 2. It's a fucking hamburger shop simulator." It's rare and expensive, but like nobody cares about that. It's the kind of thing where like only I care. So I don't know. That's unrelated to your question though. I'm just on a tangent. So next part of this sort of question is, I also enjoyed your incomplete Dark Souls long play. Any plans for more of those? The Dark Souls one especially was like I would have finished it, but the video thing the way I was capturing the video was not working. So like I lost a bunch of footage at the end, and I was just like, well, I can't replay it because it's Dark Souls. Like once you do it, you're done. So I just never finished it. I mean, it's not that I never finished it. It's that like I lost the footage, so I couldn't continue it. And I was playing Demon Souls too, but I might have finished that. I know I finished it in the playthrough, but like I don't know if I finished uploading it. And then there was a couple of games like that I was playing, and I lost footage for. Like either I would play through it and I'd lose all the audio, or I'd play through it and the video would like not render correctly or something, or get corrupted. And that happened with Sega Gaga, the translation I was doing for it. I lost 4 hours of that. And I'm just like, well, I'm not fucking replaying 4 hours of this game doing live translations. That's not going to happen. So some of those things get screwed up. But I mean, I don't have any plans at the moment, but I'll probably do it more games eventually, where I'll get something and I'll just want to play through it again. It might happen. It's possible. When, I don't know though. Okay, so next we've got Sega CD Universe, who claims he does not want this question and answer video series to end. So he's asked a lot of questions. And like he kind of asked a lot of questions, but like other people even asked more after him. So like I feel like he's begging people on or something. He's a sadist. He just wants me to continue this forever. So Sega CD Universe, Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe is asking, What are your favorite kind of beverages? Um, for the most part, I drink this all the time. This is just carbonated water. Um, I have cases of it. I just buy it by the case. I usually buy 2 cases at a time, and then when I get low, I buy a couple more cases. And it's like all I drink. And I'm going to drink some now because my voice is getting a little scratchy. But this is carbonated water. It's all I drink almost ever. Um, I started. I used to drink like tea, like sweet tea, and other stuff too. But what happened was this was. I mean, this isn't like recent. I mean, but if you go back to my in my videos, you'll notice that I used to be a bit fatter than I am now. Um, and that was due to like I drink about um, I don't know 2 to 3 liters of water a day, um, and that's like carbonated water. But previously, I was drinking like 2 to 3 liters of like some kind of sweetened beverage, and that's like when you think of the that's a lot of calories. That's all I'm saying. It's like an extra 500 calories a day, and I noticed that I had gained a lot of weight from that. Like my clothes didn't fit anymore, so it was either like buy a whole new wardrobe, and like I'm already at like the limit for sizes in Japan. Like I mean I'm always sitting in my video, but I'm like about 6 feet tall. I'm like not a small dude, so like when I get the biggest size in Japan, it's mostly because it needs to be long. Like I can't wear it otherwise, and when I can't fit in those anymore because my stomach is too big, like I don't know what I don't know what to do, so I had to like go on a diet, and my diet consisted of switching all those sweetened beverage to just carbonated water, and I like immediately lost a ton of weight. Just immediately, it was just within like a couple months, I was fine, and then like I started going to the gym, and now like I have this opposite problem where like um my some of my clothes don't fit anymore just because they're like too small around my chest, where like my shoulders and chest have like gotten too big for things. So like now I'm one of those guys that have to wear like button up shirts with like 6 buttons open because it's just like this, because like I can't button them anymore because of my massively muscular chest. It's not even that muscular, it's just like much more than it was before. But yeah, that's totally unrelated to the beverage question, but that's why I drink those. I just drink carbonated water now, so I don't turn into a like a I don't know, bloated mass of fat, I guess. So let's see. Next question from Mike is, when you eat sushi, do you mix in the wasabi into the soy sauce? Here, that's kind of a big no-no there. Um, I don't eat sushi because I don't eat seafood or fish. And that's not, well, that's not entirely true. I sometimes eat sushi, but like it has to be like weird sushi that's like vegetable only, or some like kind of weirdo meat sushi that's like things that Japanese people don't usually eat. Um, it's rare that I mean, it's incredibly rare that I'll go to anything that's Japanese food though. So, I mean, but I wouldn't do that because I don't particularly like wasabi, so I don't usually use it at all. Um, Next, have you seen the movie Jiro Dreams of Sushi, or have you been to that super expensive restaurant he owns? Nope. I haven't seen the movie, and I wouldn't go because I don't usually like sushi. Um, Next question, what is your favorite and most hated FMV game? I assume you mean 2 games, because this question is actually like my favorite and most hated at the same time. Like, my favorite, most hated FMV game is a weird question. Um, it's either one or the other there. So I'm going to go with 2 games here because logic dictates that that's what you mean, not your sentence structure. Poor sentence structure from Mike. Um, I okay. One of my probably my favorite FMV game, and this is like now this is hard. This is hard. Like a lot of people, and like it's not hard because like there's no good FMV games. It's hard because like I have a hard time picking picking from the FMV games that I like. Um, and like some of you are probably like scoffing at that, like, oh my god, there's not that many FMV games that are good. It's just like you didn't live when those were the hotness. You didn't live when FMV games came out. Like everybody wanted to be an FMV game. Like, and there's way more on PC than there are on consoles. So like you go through that stuff, and there's actually, I mean, there's a really good ones. I think like. Hmm, I'm I'm trying to I want to try and pick it out for not nostalgia, because I like when it comes to when I think about it, I think, oh well, I really like Hell, a cyberpunk thriller, but I objectively that's not a good game. It's a fun game though, but like it's like one of those games that's put together in a way that like you can lose, and that, I mean, not in a way that like you're bad and you. It's like if you don't do stuff at certain times, like you just can't win the game. It's like unbeatable then, but it won't tell you that, so like you're just stuck forever. Um, and it's a good game though. I really enjoyed it because it's kind of based on this other game, Blood.net or Bloodnet, um, which is a older game. It's similar in style at least to that game, but that game's a really good game. It's probably not my favorite though. What is that game with Kirk Cameron? Um, oh man, it, it's not coming to me, but I know it will. It also involves like shit. The Horde. That's what it is. It's the Horde. That's um that's one of my favorite games. It's it's not one of my favorite games altogether, but it's one of my favorite FMV type of games. But it might not be my favorite. Maybe I'll know what you know what my favorite one will be. It'll probably be Tokyo Shadow, which is like this kind of weird occult game. That's it's kind of like a live action FMV game in the Shin Megami Tensei universe. It's really weird, but it's not exactly full motion though. So I don't know if that would count. I mean, I guess there's video, but most of the game is not full motion. It's not like a complete video where they're like just hitting buttons. It's more like photo stills and then text selection, and sometimes there's video. It's good though. I'll go with that. It's like I played that game so much, and I played it again recently, and it was still fun. So like I feel like maybe that. I always, but I like the Phantasmagoria games too. Um, if you ever played a game called Bad Mojo, that's another one that has like FMV in it. That's a PC. Those two are. I guess Phantasmagoria is on consoles, but Bad Mojo is another one. You like get turned into a cockroach. It's a really fun game. Oh shit! How could I forget the greatest FMV game ever, Harvester? That one will probably be my favorite. Man, Harvester. It's so freaking weird. Um, if you haven't played Harvester, you really should. And I mean, it's not a great game in terms of like how to play it. I mean, there's obviously some technical problems with it, but it makes up for all of that by just being batshit insane. And like, there's so many like weird scenes in that game, and weird characters, and just like crazy stuff that happens. And like you notice it right away in the game, and like all the characters are crazy, and like the paperboy will shoot you if you don't give him a newspaper. It's that kind of thing. Like, it's crazy, and there's all these awesome death scenes, like, and just wackiness in that game. That's such a good game. Like, you can get it on good old games, and I think it's like $5. Like, you can't go wrong with that game. Get it and just play it for the weirdness. That's one of the best FMV games ever, and yeah, that's on PC though. Tokyo Shadow's on the Saturn, so you could play that if you don't have a. I mean, if you don't have a PC that's built after 1996. I don't know how you're watching this, but let's see. What was a Japanese food or snack you had that you thought would be gross but you loved? I don't know, man. Like most of the stuff that think is gonna be gross ends up being gross. Like, maybe those like banana potato chips were actually pretty good. Um, I didn't love them though. I just thought they were edible. Um, but I did think they were gonna be terrible. Like the peach ones were awful, but the banana ones were all right. Um, but I don't know. I can't really think of anything because like most of the stuff I think is gonna be gross usually ends up being gross. So next, what is your favorite 3DO game? That's hard. I wish I still had my 3DO stuff with me because I have so much stuff that for the 3DO. Um, and man, 3DO is like kind of underrated. There are a lot of good games on there. But since I've already talked about it, maybe I'll just go with the Horde because like then it's actually like the 3DO version is probably the best version. There's XCOM 2, well X like Terror from the Deep is on the 3DO. That's a really good game. Like it's a really really good game. Um, so like if I'm gonna be playing my 3DO, I'd think like I'd be playing those. I also, surprisingly, like playing soccer and golf games on the 3DO were really fun back in the day. Like even after like the 3DO was kind of dead, like still like my friends would play like those games. Like there's like a golf game, I can't remember the name, and a soccer game, but I wouldn't say those are the best. I'm just thinking like those were uncharacteristically good considering I don't like soccer or golf. Um, but yeah, that's what was a Japanese food or oh that's the same question. On the I'm going backwards on the list here. Next question though, who is your favorite classic old wrestler and who is your favorite current wrestler? If you could have been a part of any wrestling stable ever, which would you choose and why? That's two questions, but they're both wrestling related. So, my favorite classic old wrestler. Um, hmm, that's that's hard. Who would I pick? Um, you know, you know who I've always liked. I don't know if I would say he's my favorite, but you know who I've always thought was like really underrated and was really really good. Art Anderson. Um, I always liked seeing Arn Anderson. Another one is Kevin Sullivan. I like those two a lot. Kevin Sullivan was really really underrated, I think, and he had like a great feud with Chris Benoit, and that was I mean so good in WCW. Like Chris, look up the Chris Benoit and Kevin Sullivan feud because it was brutal. It was a really good series of matches between those guys. And Kevin Sullivan had that like devil worshiper gimmick also before WCW, and that's like amazing. It's like such a good gimmick because people were really into it and they did crazy stuff. So good. Um, so I would go with either one of those two guys. Arn Anderson is like just a solid wrestler, I think. Who's your favorite current wrestler? Hmm, it's a good question. I don't know. It it might be Tetsuya Naito right now. I just think he's so good. He's a good wrestler, but also his character is really really good, and he's so good at doing it that I feel like he's like top of his game right now. Um, yeah, maybe I'll just go with him. It's just easy answer. And if I could have been a part of any wrestling stable ever, which would you choose? Like I don't know. Dangerous Alliance. That would be that would be. It's like you know there are a lot of better stables than the Dangerous Alliance. Like the Four Horsemen, but like you don't want to be in the Four Horsemen because like um, everyone only thinks of the Four Horsemen as like either um, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Ric Flair, and revolving fourth member. But like, well, plus JJ Dillon. But like, the you don't want to be one of those revolving fourth member dudes because most of them are awful, except for like if you're like a Wyndham, you're okay. But like, or if you're Ole Anderson, like, okay, you're a four horseman that people will like. But you know, like, you get into being like Paul Roma or something, you're just like, fuck, you're gonna be like a you're gonna be like a punchline. And if you're like David Flair, you're just like the worst member of the Four Horsemen ever. So you don't want to be one of those guys. So like you want to stay out of the Four Horsemen. And then like there's NWO, but like NWO is super cool for a long time, but like man, you don't want to be in that either because it was so watered down by the end. But like you'll be like lumped in with the people, you know, you'll just be forgotten amongst the mixed up people like you know Scott Norton and Buff Bagwell or something. You're gonna be like one of those guys, and you don't want to be that. So you're just like, well, I guess I'd be out of that. And then you know, there's other stuff like I'm trying to think of factions like you know I can think of there's like kind of yeah you know what would be like a funny faction to be part of would be like the Dungeon of Doom because like everybody's a joke in that, so you might as well be like part of the joke. That would be a fun one to be part of. But if I were like to be a cool part of a cool group, Dangerous Alliance. If I were to be a part of a jokey group, the Dungeon of Doom. I'll go with those. That's good. That's good answers, I think. So next question from Mike here is: will Shadowrun's translations on the Mega CD ever be complete? Maybe no. I mean, I wouldn't say no. I'm sure there's somebody working on it, but you know, I think like there was somebody working on it and they stopped, and now like people see that it's like partially done, and like nobody is like, well, somebody's working on it, so maybe I don't have to do anything, and they go on to other stuff. And I don't think that's true. I think nobody's probably working on it, but I've never played it. I if I had a copy, I'd play it. Um, I don't have a copy though, and like because filthy eBay importers have driven the price up to over $100, I probably will never have a copy until like there's a price crash, and then I can get it for cheap. But Shadowrun on the Mega CD, maybe never. It's maybe not the kind of game that like is super popular for enough for people to want to play, and because I mean I like the only thing I could think of is that like because it's Shadowrun, someone might want to do it. Like I could do a translation for it. It's not like I mean I don't know the technical part of it. If there was someone who like knew the technical part of making a patch for a Mega CD game, I could do the translation. I'm not like because I want to play the game. Like if someone has the copy of the game they want to give me, and someone who knows how to do the translation stuff, like I can do the text. I mean, I just can't put it in the game because I don't know how. I mean, potentially I could do it, but it's the kind of thing where like I always feel like I could fan translate a million games. Like it wouldn't be an issue, but I always feel like some scummy reseller is just gonna take the round for that and sell that themselves, and not give me credit for doing the work. So I feel like I don't want to do it. It's that kind of thing where I just think like it happens to everybody who does fan translations. Just like some scumbag will take their translated ROM and burn it to a cartridge or a disc and sell that shit. And they did no work, but they got they've benefited from your work that you did for free. So it's the kind of thing where like I don't want to be part of that. So let's see. What is your favorite party game and with friends slash local co-op? I don't like party games. I don't play any party games. I haven't played any party games in a really long time. But it's not really a party game. But one of the most fun games you can play with a bunch of people in a room is Worms. It's like Worms 3D, not 3D, not definitely not 3D. Like Worms 1 or 2, or the 2D ones. Those ones are all really fun. And when you have a bunch of people playing in the same room, it's a lot of fun. We used to play that a lot, but that's a good one. So there's some questions from Mike. Next, we've got a lot more questions. Jesus, I'm never going to finish this. I was thinking like maybe I can get through these, but like, nah. Not even close. Jesus, not even close. So let's see. Big Drew Dog is back. More questions. And he's thanking me for mentioning Wizardry 8, which, if you haven't bought, you should buy because that's a great game. And he's got a couple more questions here. Do you have a Japanese driver's license? Is it hard to get used to driving on the left side of the road? Does it disorient you when you visit the States? I do not have a Japanese driver's license. I don't plan on getting one. I don't have a car. I don't plan on getting one. It's too much money, not for the car, but like just for like I have to pay like $100 a month to buy a parking space. I'm not doing that. For like the minimum amount of time I would use a car, it's just not worth it to me. But I don't even have a driver's license anymore. I don't have a U.S. driver's license anymore. They never renewed mine, so like it's like 10 years out of date. I've never driven in Japan, and I don't plan on it. If you're a Canadian, this is a thing. Like if you're a Canadian, you can come to Japan and just get a license. Like all you have to do is go and like fill out some paperwork, and they'll just give you a license. If you're American, you have to like start from zero and take a driving test and everything. I'm not doing that. It's not that I can't drive. It's that like I just have no reason to. So I'm never gonna do that. Let's see. Next question: do you have a shower in your apartment? Do you have to go to a bathhouse? In all the anime I watch, it seems like that's the norm. No, no, I have a shower in my house. There are almost no apartments where there's no shower. Those are all really old buildings. Like maybe in the past that was a thing, but currently, like nobody wants to live in those apartments. And if you do, it's just because you don't have a lot of money, because those places are usually cheap. When I was looking for apartments recently because I moved, I was looking through apartments and I'd find places that were like $400 a month, and you'd like, wow, why is this a place so cheap? And you'd look at it and be like, oh, there's no shower. That sucks. I'm not doing that. But I have like a bathroom, like a complete bathroom in my apartment, because that would suck. It would suck to have to go to a bath. Next question: do you want to have kids someday? Not especially. I'm not patient enough for kids. I don't like being around kids. I always feel like, you know, when you're dealing with somebody who's like incredibly irrational and you just want to like walk away from them because they're not making any sense and they're like doing stupid shit. That's like basically kids. I've just like basically described you like hanging out with kids. So like if I had to hang out with one for like 18 years or whatever, I'd want to die. I have no like I couldn't do it. I'm just not built to be a parent. I'm not built to have kids. And I don't particularly feel like I want them. So like you'd think like that's bad, like it's against like your kind of genetic drive, but like mathematically my sisters have like so many kids that like I don't have to worry about my genes being passed on because my sisters have done all the work. It's fine for me. Last question here is: after graduating college, what was your motivation to decide to permanently move to Japan? It's obviously a pretty risky and life-altering decision. Um, you know, I after I finished college, well, like I I graduated college twice, and like I finished college and I have a degree in graphic design, and then I finished that and I started working, and I thought like, Jesus, I really hate graphic design as a job. Like I just don't want to do it. And I really like design. I like design and I like art and I like um, doing graphic design. I just don't like doing it as a job. So like I thought, well, this is fucked. I'm not gonna do this. So I went to college again, and when I went back to college, I studied art and art history. So I have, you know, a fine arts degree and an art history degree. And I studied mostly painting and printmaking, and then history of religious art. So I did a lot of stuff with that. And when I was in college for that, I studied abroad in Japan for 1 year doing uh, Japanese religious art. And, I lived in Japan for a year then, and I thought, like, I just really like Japan. I really like living in Tokyo. I think it's such a, great place to live. So I decided, like, after I graduate, I'm just going to move back because I just enjoyed it so much. And that's what I did. That was basically the motivation. I was just like, well, I don't have anything going on where I am in Connecticut. And basically, by that point, like, most of my friends were moving away or doing other stuff. It was just the kind of thing where, like, well, what am I going to do here? Work a shit job? Or, do something I hate? I might as well, if I'm going to have to do a shitty job that I hate, I might as well do it in a place that's awesome. So I moved to Tokyo. But so that's kind of it. So next we've got Raiden2421 is asking, did you read all of the Quantum Devil Saga novels and what were your thoughts? I haven't read any of them. I haven't read any of those. Probably should, but like, I'm okay. I'm kind of a stickler for books, and that's not like I don't read things. It's that like first I want physical copies, and then I want original copies, if that makes sense. Like I don't want reprints. So I tend to, if I find those books, I'll read them. But like I'm not like actively searching. But if I found them somewhere, like in a bookshop or something, I'd buy them and read them. But otherwise, I'm not going to read them. So, I mean, that's it. That's all I got. I mean, I could get them online. I know they're online, but I'm not gonna do that. I have a real trouble reading books digitally, but also I prefer to have the actual book. It's like games. I want to have a physical copy for my collection. And in Japan, I've been really good about not buying books, but like in the U.S., like in the U.S., like when like you think you have a backlog of games. Like I had a backlog of games and a backlog of books. I have like always have a stack of books that I was like next to be read, and I'd constantly be going to used bookstores. I mean, I have friends who are like that too. So we'd drive to like hours away to other states to go to bookstores and just search around. So we'd find all types of stuff, and I had all types of crazy books um, in my own like library of stuff. But since I've come to Japan, like I don't have space to do that, so I've been like trying to get better about reading stuff like via Kindle or stuff like that. But it's harder. It's harder for me. So like I still have books and I still buy books, but like I've been trying to be good about not buying books. Been trying to like do things like, oh, I guess I can get it on Audible or something, and then like it's I don't, it's not, I don't have to read it at least, and I don't have to have a physical copy like cluttering up my house. But there's only certain things you can get on there. You can't. So like you have to buy books eventually. Well, I mean, I can't even remember how I got into this topic of books. Maybe I'm. Oh, okay. The last question was about books. Anyway, next we've got Ozeloto is back, asking a lot more questions. Fuck, man. This is probably going to be the last set of questions before this video ends. I thought I was going to get through like half of this. Like maybe the next video is not going to be the last video. Jesus, so many questions. Anyway, here we are back with more questions. So you mentioned you were a huge Green Lantern fan. Who is your favorite Green Lantern? When I was collecting Green Lantern, it was like the 90s. And my favorite Green Lantern was Guy Gardner. And like, I realized that later Guy Gardner became like this ultra patriotic dude. But when I was a fan of Guy Gardner, he wasn't like that. He was just like a real kind of, I don't know, like a short-tempered badass kind of. And like, like this is like when he first got his own series, when he lost his Green Lantern ring and he got the yellow ring. And this kind of thing was like when I started liking, when I was like a fan of Guy Gardner. I mean, I would like Guy Gardner before that, but like when he got his own series, I was really happy because I was like a big fan of him. Um, so Guy Gardner, I always got like a soft spot for him, even though like later on he became like kind of a different character. But I wasn't reading Green Lantern then, so it was kind of okay. I've got my good memories of Guy Gardner. Um, but next we've got, do you like the Delta Green setting for the Call of Cthulhu tabletop RPG? I've never read that. I don't know what the Delta Green setting for Call of Cthulhu is. Um, I've see for the most part for when I play tabletop RPGs, if I run the game, I don't use any of the settings. I just make up my own stuff, all of my own stuff. So I just use the base book for everything. So let's see. Next is, how is Kamen Rider Amazons so far? It's pretty good. Like, Kamen Rider Amazons is obviously made for adults. Like but it's still kind of goofy. Like it's not goofy, but like the acting is bad in some cases, and especially the main character is awful. But I think it's like on purpose. I feel like it must be on purpose because like there's no other explanation for why it's so bad. Because like there's actors in the show that are actually really good, and then there's like ones that are so bad that like it couldn't possibly be anything but on purpose. But it's a good show because it's dark and there's like lots of exploding heads and shit. It's cool. Um, let's see. Do you have a favorite type of enemy to fight in games like orcs, skeletons, Nazis, etc.? Not especially. I don't have any specific type where I'm just like, yeah, I gotta beat the hell out of that guy. It's usually specific to a game. So like in some cases, there's types of enemies in a game that are like particularly assholes, and you like to beat those guys up. Like in Dark Souls, like you got the fucking arrow guys in Anor Londo. Like you get like a great great sense of accomplishment every time you kill one of those guys. Even though like I've done it a million times, every time it feels awesome to kill those guys because they're such assholes. And I just go back to the first time I got there and like died 100 times on that stupid climbing into the tower thing. So let's see. How are American comics perceived in Japan? I know Spider-Man is popular since he had his own tokusatsu show, but what about the others like Batman or even not superhero comics? I don't know about not superhero comics, but usually like bookstores have a section for American comics, and I'm not sure how popular they are. They're not obviously not as popular as like manga are, but there are fans of American comics, and I think like all those like Iron Man, Avengers type movies do really well in Japan. I think Batman is pretty popular, but it's obviously it's not as popular as any of the Japanese comics are. They're all I don't know anybody who reads American comics in Japan though, so I can't really give a solid opinion on that, like a solid answer that makes any sense beyond like my own perceptions. But I know like there must be an audience because they sell those things in the bookstore, so it's like usually a whole section. So I don't know. Let's see. Did you play Freedom Force on the PC? Nope. I don't even know what that is. I don't know what kind of game it is. So if it's a PC only game, like unless it's like a strategy game, I probably don't know what it is. I don't pay attention to a lot of PC stuff. Oh, okay. Other than wizard, a general magic user, what is your favorite class in RPGs? Um, that's hard. Um, if I were playing an RPG and I don't have the option to be a magic user, I usually just play a like a fighter, so, someone who is just like a um, some kind of bruiser. I think is like the easiest way to play like like a game RPG. If you're talking about like a tabletop RPG, like all my characters are the weakest fucking characters. I make them really easily killable on purpose because it means that I have to play the game in a certain way that's more fun for me. So like if you're playing a tabletop game, like I mean, I guess it goes in regular RPGs too, because usually if you're a wizard, you have shit armor. But I always like the main character to be like a glass cannon, basically. Like someone who can do massive amount of damage, but like if he gets hit, he's fucked. That's basically like how I play characters. Not usually in like a wizardry game or something though, like like a first person dungeon crawler. Like you can't do that because like you'll die all the time. It won't be fun. You have to like really plan out a party that's good. So you know, it's kind of different, but that's generally the answer. Favorite tokusatsu movie? That's hmm. I don't know. That's a good question. Um, what movie? Oh, damn it! And like everything that's coming to my head right now is not a movie. It's like that's a TV show, or that's it wasn't in the movie. That was in the TV show. Like there's a bunch of Kamen Rider movies that are cool, but like all of the best ones are like not part of the movies. Um, damn it. You know, I don't know. I really don't know on that one. Um, uh, that's hard. I can't think of anything. I can't even think of anything. I want to go with like I keep wanting to say like it's gonna be Garo, but like I really like that series, but I can't think of like if the movie is good enough to say that it's like one of my favorites. If you ever seen Hentai Kamen, that's a really funny movie, but I don't think it's really counts as a tokusatsu movie. Um, yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know. The Hokkaido movie is kind of crazy and goofy. That one's a good one. Kamen Rider J maybe is like really, really early '90s, like it's or '80s, I guess, late '80s, early '90s feel, and it's great for that. But I don't know if it's like a great movie. Um, I don't know. Let's see. Warhammer Fantasy or 40K and why? Okay, normally I think most people like Warhammer 40K more than anything, and like probably if you were playing, Warhammer 40K is more fun, because like you have a lot more options. But like I prefer Warhammer Fantasy, and like it's really different now because of the Age of Sigmar thing. Like the story is really different. I used to really be into Warhammer Fantasy though, and my friends and I used to play Warhammer Fantasy and 40K, but we always played Warhammer Fantasy and only occasionally played 40K. So I prefer the world of 40K, not 40K, of fantasy, but like there's a lot of stuff that's about 40K that's really cool. I like the grim dark, I guess, of everything. That's what it is. But I prefer fantasy because I prefer the kind of magic and over the sci-fi setting. I prefer the fantasy setting over the sci-fi setting, I guess, even though I really also like the sci-fi setting, if that makes any sense. Um, but yeah. So let's see. Do you know any crazy? This will probably be the last question. I think I'm almost at an hour. Do you know any crazy subcultures in Japan that is never talked about in the West? Um, I not really. I mean, um, there's some or that aren't really that popular that are around. Like, oh man, what is the name of that shit? Um, it's like a Deco something. Fuck. Um, it's like basically like the probably the more popular thing in Harajuku right now, but it's kind of like lots of crazy colors and shit. But it's not really that big, and like I think a lot of people see it because like you'll see pictures of stuff like that. But it's not really. It's not like it's not super big though. Um, and there's stuff like um, I don't know. There's like weird fetish communities and stuff that I think like are probably everywhere now due to the internet. So it's hard to say. I can't really think of anything that's like completely like nobody knows about. I can't think of anything. I'm sure it exists, but then I don't know about it either. Or I'm not thinking about it. Like it's either like something I've seen and I just like haven't considered that it's nowhere else, or it's just something I don't know about. So that's about it. I thought I was going to get way farther in this than I did. Maybe the next episode will not be, maybe it will. Okay, so tentatively the next episode will be the last episode unless there's a ton more questions. And then, you know, again, I guess I'll be on the part. Next will be 16, but if it's not the last part, you'll know in the title. So I guess I will catch you guys next time.